Civil War is the newest film from writer-director Alex Garland, whose previous work includes Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Men. Garland's work before has tended to be a bit hit or miss whenever it comes to audiences. I think we can all agree that Ex Machina is amazing, but the other two are a bit more divisive. Something that I like about Alex Garland's films is he's not afraid to ask the tough questions. Particularly with Ex Machina, I love how he shows us a reality that, if we're not careful, may just be here, granted in a more science fiction-y way. And Garland does that again with Civil War as he thrusts us into an alternate version of the future with the United States in a second Civil War. Now, I read online that there are multiple other factions, but in the movie, it's basically the United States versus the Western forces, California and Texas. However, this movie isn't really about a second Civil War. It's about a group of war photographers navigating their way to Washington, D.C. in an attempt to interview the president before he is deposed. And really, at its core, this movie is a road trip involving these four war photographers, one of which is new on the scene and wants to learn, another one is kind of older and weathered, and two that are, I guess, in their prime, one of which is super famous apparently. That sort of peak photographer being played by Kirsten Dunst in the movie. So really, it's not the second Civil War, it's these characters' experience in the Civil War telling a very human story and thrusting these people into a very non-normal situation where at any point on this road trip they could come into a roadblock and just be shot at. And that happens multiple times throughout the movie where all of a sudden they are in danger. And Alex Garland makes you, the viewer, think about what a world like this would be like. Because it wouldn't just be war photographers, it wouldn't just be people in the army being put into danger. It's everyday civilians. And at any point, you could just be on the receiving end of someone on a bad day and face the wrath. Something that I love about this movie is its set design. It feels very lived in. A scene that I particularly love is whenever the group of photographers are kind of making camp out at a shopping mall. Well, we have a landed helicopter, or I guess a crashed helicopter, and it's not explained how that happened. You just know that there are battles everywhere, so clearly there was a battle here. But in the same shot, we have two lawn chairs just sitting there outside the shopping mall. So in your mind, you think of this place as being worn-torn, but also people are just making camp here. They're sitting down. Like, people have come in and out of this random parking lot. And I know that may not sound super exciting, but it's that sort of detail that I love in movies like this. In any given scene or shot of this movie, you're going to see the remnants of war. The remnants of the people that have come before these photographers. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know if these people are safe. We don't know if they're maybe the antagonizers in a situation. We simply don't know. And I can imagine a lot of people aren't going to like that about this movie, that we aren't giving clear-cut answers as to why certain things happen, or, you know, what happens next, or why some people are doing what they're doing. But for me, that kind of rings home the whole point of the movie that Alex Garland is trying to bring across. In a way, I think that it's excellent to portray it as a second Civil War, because we see situations like this happen across the world, but until it happens on your own land, you don't necessarily connect with it. And so Alex Garland is forcing us to question what would it be like if we were put in the same situation as people overseas, and what exactly that would look like in America. It's a terrifying thing to think about or even imagine, but just imagine being in that situation. I love that Alex Garland makes us question that here. Kirsten Dunst is absolutely incredible in this movie. I could tell within the first 10 minutes that she was going to be pulling off some of the best work of her career. She's a very weathered war photographer. Not really a whole lot gets to her, and you sort of see her become more of a human as the movie goes on. She experiences real loss in her life. You know, she's found a way to disconnect from other people's loss because she's just been around it for so long. And she sort of brings off that message to the young war photographer. But again, as we go through the movie, we see Kirsten Dunst's character change. It's very slight, it's very subtle, but Dunst absolutely pulled it off. She was fantastic in this. Kaylee Spaney was really good as the young war photographer. The only issue that I had with the performance, and it may not even necessarily be with her, is I feel like her character turned really quick. You know, we get the very innocent young war photographer at the beginning of the movie, and it feels like after one particular scene, she's substantially more weathered, whereas I feel like it would be a more gradual change for her. But that is very, very nitpicky. I think that her performance is very good. And like I said, this movie might end up bugging some people for, I guess, really two reasons. One of which is it's not really about a second Civil War. So if you're going to see an interesting, I guess, war movie, you're not gonna get that. But the second thing is it does ask a lot of questions without giving a clear-cut answer. And that can work for movies sometimes, and it did work for me most of the time with this movie, and it's not going to work in other times where, as the audience, we do kind of need an answer or a resolution to this thing. But I understand what Alex Garland was going for in this movie, and that this is a snapshot of a terrible situation with basically normal people. I think it works more often than it doesn't, but it may not necessarily work for everyone. With that being said, y'all, Civil War is a very interesting film. I can imagine that it'll be kind of divisive among people. It seems like the mass majority of critics really love it, and this is a movie that I really, really enjoyed. I don't think I enjoyed this movie, but I can appreciate the movie for what it is. It's probably a solid 4 out of 5 for me. It's not a movie that you want to rewatch, but I do think that it's really important, and you should give it a shot if you're free this weekend and want to go to the movies. But that's everything that I had to say about Civil War today. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment down below, and be sure to subscribe if you like this and you want to see more. Bye, y'all.